full screen.
All right. So, do y'all know what the picture of this is? That's right. This is a synapses. Now, this could be one of any synapses in the body. It can be a synapses regarding the autonomic nervous system. This could be a synapses of the somatic nervous system, which is your musculoskeletal nerve endings. This could also be a synapses of the a sensory neuron. We'll look at it first from the autonomic nervous system. Y'all answer some questions for me because you should remember this pretty good. Just looking at the synaptic cleft, if this were a sympathetic neuron, a synapse that is innervated to some organ tissue like the heart, the sympathetic nervous system nerve fiber that runs to the SA node of the heart, for instance. You have this synaptic cleft here, and inside the end of the neuron, you have some vesicles that have a chemical in there called a neurotransmitter. What is the name of the post-ganglionic neurotransmitter that would be released to attach to receptors at its target tissue for the sympathetic nervous system? What chemical would that be? That's right. That would be norepinephrine. Okay, so norepinephrine is stored in here. Once a impulse reaches the end of the neuron and it makes it to the synapses here, then there's several things that take place. Calcium is involved, and calcium is actually what causes these vesicles to release the neurotransmitter into the synapses, and then that neurotransmitter will cross over and attach to a receptor that's on the membrane of those target tissue cells. Does that make sense? Y'all remember that? So for the sympathetic nervous system, that is norepinephrine. In this case, if it's norepinephrine, do you remember what receptors norepinephrine actually has an affinity for, an ability to attach for, an attraction? That's right, adrenergic receptors. And those adrenergic receptors have names. There's basically 4 types of receptors for the sympathetic nervous system.
A1, A2, B1, B2.
That's right, alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, and beta 2. All right, alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, and beta 2 are those receptors. Okay, so if this was the SA node here, what type of receptors would this be right here? Those would be beta 1 receptors, and the attachment of norepinephrine to those receptors in the SA node would cause what effect in the heart? It would. That's right. So you would have a positive. Do y'all remember the word for increasing the heart rate? It'd be chronotropic. That's right. It would have a positive chronotropic effect on the SA node. It would speed its rate up. It would also have a. It would also cause an increase in the strength of contraction, which is inotropy. That's right. It would have a positive inotropic effect. It would also have a conduction velocity, the speed with which the impulse travels through the tissue from the SA node all the way down the nerve pathways to the Purkinje fibers. The speed of conduction there is called dromatropy. So if this were sympathetic and this was heart tissue in the SA node, that would be norepinephrine. These would be beta 1 receptors that it is attaching to, and it would have a positive chronotropic effect on the heart. It would have a positive inotropic effect on the heart and a positive dromatropic effect on the heart. Do y'all have any questions on that?
The chronotropic is rate and regularity?
Sir?
Chronotropic, that's rate and regularity?
Chronotropic is rate. Okay. So if you increase the rate of the heart, then you are increasing chronotropy. If you decrease if it has a negative chronotropic effect, it is slowing the heart rate down.
Inotropic is the
inotropic. Say inotropic. Huh?
Inotropic.
What about it?
It's
the strength of the contraction. It's the strength of the contraction, how hard the muscle contracts. So if you increase that, it contracts more strongly. If you decrease inotropy, it contracts with less strength.
What's the D one?
Dromatropy is conduction velocity, how fast the impulse travels through the nervous system, in this case of the heart. Any other questions on that? Now, remember, this is one that we used as an example. Then we use heart tissue. Let's just pick another tissue that the sympathetic nervous system affects, and you know what you remember what your bronchioles do. If your sympathetic nervous system, remember the sympathetic nervous system will be activated anytime stress is put on the body, and that stress could be from a tiger walking in the room, or the same type of activation of the sympathetic nervous system would occur if I have a car wreck and lacerate my liver and start bleeding out. The sympathetic nervous system is what helps me to compensate for blood loss there. So let's look at the bronchioles, for instance. If this was a sympathetic nerve fiber running to the smooth muscle cell of the bronchiole, which is probably not a realistic picture of that, but we'll pretend this is a smooth muscle cell in the bronchiole, then again, what chemical is released? Norepinephrine.
B2.
It will attach to which receptors in the bronchiole?
Beta 2.
These would be beta 2 receptors. That's right, in the bronchioles. Norepinephrine has an affinity for beta 2, so the effect of that would be a dilation of the bronchioles. Okay, the smooth muscles would relax, or they would dilate and open up the bronchioles. All right, that's your beta 2 receptors. All right, so we have beta 1 in the heart. If this was a bronchiole, it would be beta 2 receptors. All right, now again, this may not be a realistic picture, this portion of a sympathetic nerve fiber innervating the vessels of our body, but in the peripheries of our body, in our peripheral blood vessels, the vessels in our skin, for instance, we can pretend that this is the smooth muscle cells of the vasculature in the body. And you have a sympathetic nerve fiber that runs to those areas and innervates those vessels in the skin, for instance. You will have a release of norepinephrine in that area, and a release of the norepinephrine would cross the synapses here and attach to which receptors?
A1.
Those will be alpha 1 receptors. That's correct. And as the norepinephrine attaches to the alpha 1 receptors, then that would cause the smooth muscles in the vasculature, like the vasculature in the skin, it would cause those to constrict. And by constricting, it would do what to your blood? It would shunt it away from the skin to the core of the body, to the vital organs. It would help maintain your blood pressure if your blood pressure began to drop. Any questions?
Another word for the receptors on this side of the synapse is adrenergic. Adrenergic for the sympathetic nervous system.
Adrenergic for the sympathetic nervous system. That's correct.